Okay, so we are recording now. So this is the library presentation for POLI 205, and I'm Michelle Lake. So the two libraries on our two campuses are Webster and Vanier. They're both open 24/7 if you're in a position to access the library in person. You need your student card after 11 p.m. at night until 7 in the morning. Downtown, the Webster Library is the second through the fifth floor of LB of the library building. And generally speaking at Concordia, wherever a discipline is taught, that's where you'll find the print collections. So in this case, political science, government information, history, social sciences, all of those print collections are in the downtown Webster Library. And then we have other collections at the Boolean Library. Okay, so just a couple things about the library in person. So services such as the Loans Desk, the Ask Us Desk, and our chat help are not open 24/7. Obviously, you can check the library website for hours if you need a particular service. We do have the course reserves room, which if your textbook is available in print, we have all the required undergraduate print textbooks in the course reserve room. And you'll need to access these, you'll need a call number of a book to locate them in the course reserves. And you can find that using our SOFIA catalog, which I'll be showing you. And if you are going to access and use the library, procedural masks need to be worn at all times. So your student card is your library card. I need your student card for almost everything in the library, so it's good that you have it. You need it to borrow books, borrow a laptop, print, and access the library during 24/7. You can borrow up to 100 print items at a time and renew them online. You can also borrow a laptop for 24 hours and a tablet for 3 days. Webster Library has 5 book scanners that can be used for free to scan chapters from our print books and email them to yourself as a PDF. I mention this because, especially with the course reserves, they're often for a limited time, usually 3 hours. So we have the book scanners so that you can scan anything in print if you have the material for a limited time. And while you're off campus, especially being that this is a remote class, to access online articles and ebooks, you need to log in with your My Concordia NetName and password through the library. And I'll be showing you today mostly electronic sources and talking about the points where you might need to log in. But you always want to try to access our books, our journals, and our databases through the Concordia Library website, because then it will prompt you to fill in your NetName and password, knowing that you're a Concordia person. And just another note about sort of the other side of course reserves, which is the electronic course reserves. So on our website, which is library.concordia.ca, there are a couple ways to access course reserves. So first being, there's a little blue menu in sort of the middle of the page on our website. And that is where you can access course reserves, or under login to, there's also course reserves under that menu. And both will prompt you to log in with your NetName and password again. And this is where you would go log in and you would find a list of your classes like POLI 205. If your professor has asked us to put anything on electronic course reserve, you would click on your course code, and then you would see the items that were available. And usually this is things like e-journal articles or chapters from books, sometimes films, whatever your professors have asked us to put in the electronic course reserves. So there's the physical course reserves room, and then there's the electronic course reserves. So a few other things about the website. Our main sort of discovery tool, our main search on the website is called SOFIA. And this is our library catalog. So it's where you'll find print books, but also our ebooks and some journal articles from the library. And I say some journal articles because it doesn't access all of our library databases. And I'm going to be showing you a specific political science database, but you will see some journal articles come up if you're searching through SOFIA. I always like to point out the book or group study room if you are going to be using the library in person. This is for 2 or more people for up to 3 hours. It's very popular. It gets booked up quite a bit ahead of time, but there's a calendar on the website that you can use to access that. Also finding your subject guide for your topic area. So because there's a subject librarian like myself for every subject, we also create these guides that tell students in these subject areas where the first places to look, where the best places to look for political science students, for instance. And so you can access the subject guides here. And I'm going to be showing you the political science subject guide and some useful items that are on there, especially for your upcoming assignment. So the first thing I wanted to cover really briefly was locating items when you have citation information. So this is often, you may get a syllabus full of things that may not be in course reserve. You may need to find them yourself. Or if you're reading something, a book or a journal article, and then there's a list of references, and you'd like to go after some of those references and locate some of the books and articles that that author has used from the reference list, how would you figure out if we have access to them through Concordia? So the answer is going to be mainly using SOFIA. So for this first citation, I have an author. I have 2 titles, what looks like a volume number, a date, and some page numbers. So what this is telling me about this citation is that this is very likely a journal article, because there are 2 titles, the title of the article as well as the title of the journal being foreign policy in this case. And there's a volume and page numbers. There's no place of publication, there's no publisher, which is what you would normally find in a citation for a book. So in this case, what would we put in SOFIA in order to find this? The author's last name, the title of the article, and the title of the journal is usually enough. And so in this case, it was the first hit in SOFIA, and I was able to find this. This matches all the citation information. This is a peer-reviewed journal article, and it appears to be available through Concordia, and there's a button there to access it online. So then when we click on the Access Online button, it gives me quite a few options to either find the PDF or find full text. So what this is doing is connecting with all the different places the Foreign Policy Journal is available through our resources. So it looks like it's available through a database called JSTOR. It's available through a database called Academic Search Complete, a database called Business Source Complete. So I can click on any of these, and then I will probably go through to that new database from SOFIA and be able to access the journal article. And so in this case, I've gone through to JSTOR. This is what JSTOR looks like, and I can download the PDF and save it to my computer. Okay, so we have another citation here. There's a bit more information in the citation. So we have an author, a title, an editor, another title, and then we have a place of publication, a publisher, a date, and some page numbers. So taking all of that into consideration, I'd say that this is likely a book chapter because of the 2 titles, but also because there's an editor and an author, a place of publication, and a publisher. So in this case, if you're searching in SOFIA to see if we have access to this book chapter, you need to search for the second title, which is the title of the book itself. So what we have listed in our library catalog for print books and ebooks are mostly the titles of the books. The titles of the chapters may be included in a table of contents, but maybe not. You're not 100% guaranteed to figure out if we have access to it if you're just searching for the title of the actual chapter. So in this case, I took the second title, the title of the book, Cultural of National Security, Norms and Identity in World Politics, and I'm searching it in SOFIA. Now you'll also note I took out the colon. Most of the databases don't react super well to punctuation. They don't love punctuation. So I usually just take all that out and just type out the title as I find it. Okay, so it found the book. It's a book from 1996. And it looks like it is available on the shelf. So in order for me to now access the chapter I need, I would need to go in to the library and find the book, and I could scan the chapter or I could take the book out. And in this case, this is a nice new feature of our SOFIA catalog. We have this little locate button. So it tells you it's in the Webster Library, and then it gives you the call number, in this case, UA 10.5 C85 1996, which is the book's like physical address on the shelf. But if you click on this locate button, it also shows you where the book should be. So it gives you these instructions to head to the 5th floor of the Webster Library, go to shelving row 27. All of our shelves on each floor are numbered, and then look for the call number. And there's also a nice little map there that shows you approximately where the book should be. So this is super useful, especially if you haven't been accessing a lot of books in the library, you haven't been to the library a lot, but you need to go find something. This is a way to do that. Okay, and one more example of this. So series of international politics and zombies. I have an author, a title, a place of publication, and a publisher. So this is very likely a book. It's a book from your course outline. And so I'm just going to search for the title to see if we have access to it. And oops, and we do. And it's in the course reserve room. So it's on 3-hour loan. And it has the call number there, which is a JZ call number, but it's in the course reserve room, which is located next to the Lowe's desk on the 2nd floor of the library. So you could go in and access this book. You could scan a few chapters from it using the book scanner, or you could take it up for 3 hours to use it. And because it's located in the course reserve room, it doesn't give you an exact map, but it shows you the approximate area it should be in. Okay. And then this example, International Organization Theories and Institutions, it's another book, so you have a place of publication and a publisher. But in this case, it's an ebook. And so all of our ebooks and print books are together in the SOFIA catalog. In this case, you can click on View ebook, and then it would prompt you to log in with your My Concordia username and password from home, if you're using this from home. And you could go in, and this is sort of what the ebook looks like. I wanted to show you an example of an ebook because I often tell students not all ebooks are created equally. They're all on different publisher platforms, which will allow you more or less access to things and will sort of shape the way you interact with the book. If we have access to the book, you will always be able to read any of these books online, so within this sort of publisher platform. You can see here there's a download book PDF. This is from a publisher called Springer, and it allows you to download the book, or it allows you to download individual chapters, which is handy too, because that's often how we're interacting with academic books, is you may need 1 or 2 chapters, but you're probably not going to read the entire book, but you may want to treat each individual chapter because it's on a different topic, like you would a journal article. So you can just download the PDFs you're interested in rather than downloading the whole book. In some publisher platforms, there is no way to download the entire book. You can only access chapter by chapter, or you can read online. So I just wanted to alert you to this and just think about the ways you're going to interact with the ebooks, because very often there are different ways, and you may be able to download only so much or print only so much from it due to copyright restrictions. But we are buying an increasing number of ebooks. We have a lot of ebooks in our collection. We obviously increased the number significantly in the last couple of years due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So there's a lot available through the SOFIA catalog. Okay, so now I wanted to shift from already having a citation and looking through when you know the title of something, to sort of thinking about your topics, breaking down the topic and thinking about a search strategy in our databases, both in SOFIA and maybe in the journal article databases. So this is directly from your course outline. So your assignment is to discuss what 2 theories of international relations would predict about how states and other international actors would respond to, and then you choose one of the scenarios: a major financial crisis, in China, a catastrophic effect of climate change, and you are to choose an effect, invention of reliable fusion technology, enslaved intelligent robot revolt, or first contact with an extraterrestrial alien species. And obviously these are not events that have taken place, but you're supposed to use your two selected theories to try to predict how states and actors would respond to these things should they happen in the near future. So we need to sort of think about how we're going to interact with this topic, how we're going to break it down, and how we're going to search with it to find something useful. So the first thing, and it's written a lot about in your assignment description, is to sort of become more informed about the theories that you might want to apply and the theories that you're going to be using to make your argument. And so in the assignment, you're required to use some of your course readings. So there are specific chapters from the Frieden, Lake, and Schultz book, as well as additional course readings from your course pack or your course reserves. And so those are the things that you definitely want to start with because they are laid out very clearly in your assignment. You can also do some background reading on your political theories. There's a few ways you can do that sort of through our website and through some of our resources. And so through the SOFIA search, and I'm going to be talking about how to put together a search string and do search words, but I have a search here for international relations. I have this in quotation marks. This is because in any of our databases, when you put two or more words in between quotation marks, it searches them as a phrase. So obviously I want these two words, international relations, to be searched together, and political theories. I have a little star and asterisk there because when you put that at the end of sort of a root word, it searches all the possible endings. So theory or theories. And I chose a specific theory here. So let's just open this up. So yeah, so this is the search up here, international relations, political theory, and I went with liberalism. So I want to see what theories are available to read about in our books and articles through SOFIA. So international relations, political theory, and the problem of order beyond international relations theory, international relations theory, and ecological thought towards a synthesis. So if I click on one of these, again, this is an ebook record. We can access the ebook online. And when you search with keywords in SOFIA, what it does is it matches those words in the table of contents or the summary of the book, in the title of the book, and in the subjects of the book. And so it will sort of underline and highlight and put in bold the words that it found from your search and why it's sort of returning this as an option for you. So this is looking at liberal international relations theory and ecology. So that might be an interesting one if, say, you were going to look at the climate change topic. And I can see here in the subjects, there's international relations philosophy. And so the subjects are the way we sort of organize information in the library. So there's subjects attached to each book, and whatever subjects are attached to the book are give us an idea of what area of the library the book would be in. Now, this is obviously an ebook, but we sort of organize our information according to print principles. And so if this were a print book, you could go to this area of the library, look at the shelf where this print book might be, and all the books around it would be on the same subject as well. But it also means that there are these subjects attached, and so we can open up these subjects and see how many books, ebooks and print books, are attached to that particular subject in the library. And so if you wanted to look at international relations philosophy or international relations theory, in this case, that seems to be the subject, this is how you would find those books by accessing it through that subject. In the political science subject guide, there are also several things worth highlighting. There's an encyclopedia of political theory, which is also an ebook. So if we open this up, and this is, I'm off campus right now, so it's prompting me to log in. And once I do that, I'm able to access, in this case, this is an e-encyclopedia. So in this encyclopedia of political theory, I'm looking up liberalism. And then I have an entry here. Now, with an encyclopedia, it's a little bit different from a scholarly ebook. The encyclopedia is going to give you more of a shorter sort of some background information on maybe the history of the theory, on people who have used the theory, and how the theory relates to political ideas. But again, this is background reading along with everything that you're reading in your course readings to get an idea of the theory, how the theory functions, and how you might apply the theory to your particular scenario. There are also a list of political theory books in the subject guide, and I'm going to show you the subject guide in a few minutes, but I also have them listed here in the PowerPoint. And so I'm not going to go into each of these, but there's quite a few ebooks available. International Relations Key Concepts. There are some handbooks here, the Oxford Handbook of Political Theory in International Relations. And then there are a few print books as well on the shelf, International Relations Theory, the Essentials. And again, these are sort of background scholarly books that can give you some ideas about your theories, how you're going to apply them, and which theories you might be selecting after you sort of go through those initial readings in your course books. And as I say, there's a section on the political science subject guide that lists these books and has links to them, and you'll also be able to get to them through the PowerPoint links that you will link to that. Okay, so then let's look at the other part of the topic. So that's sort of thinking about your theories, doing the reading on those theories, but then how are you going to sort of search these topics? So I've selected the first topic, a major financial crisis in China, threatening the global economy. And so here, you want to pick out what are the major ideas in this topic that I need to sort of think about, and that I maybe need to find some sources related to these, or as closely related as you can. And so I've identified financial crisis, global economy, China as sort of the main parts of this topic. So when we're talking about a financial crisis, there are definitely other terms for this. And this is sort of the brainstorming part. And with these topics in particular, there's going to be a lot of brainstorming as to what are the related terms, if perhaps these things haven't taken place yet, but what are the concepts attached to them that there may have been events that have taken place. So with financial crisis, obviously there have been financial crises before. It might be called an economic crisis or a recession or a financial collapse, an economic meltdown, market volatility. When we're talking about the global economy, we're talking about international economic relations, the world economy, the global financial system, and then globalization is sort of an umbrella term there. And how do you come up with these? Well, I mean, some of them are pretty obvious. It just might be the sort of thinking of synonyms, or you do a little bit of Googling and find a handy Wikipedia page. I'm not saying you should cite a Wikipedia page, but it's going to give you an idea of what vocabulary you should be using, because of course there's all different authors out there, and they're all using different vocabulary to talk about similar phenomena, but you want to be able to include a lot of that vocabulary in your searching so you get sort of the best, most well-rounded search. And so when we're thinking about countries or places geographically, obviously the sort of full name of the country, People's Republic of China, or Asia in general, because there might be, especially if you're looking at things like ebooks, there might be ebooks about, the global Asian economy or globalization in East Asia, which might have chapters about China specifically. So you always want to think, okay, how are people going to be writing about this in sort of a broad way and in a specific way? And then what theories are you going to be applying? And of course, those need to be part of your search as well. Okay, so then how do we put all of these things together? Once we've done our brainstorming and we've figured out, okay, these are my keywords or my key concepts, how do I put them together? And so these search tips I'm going to show you apply to SOFIA, but they also apply, and you'll see in my examples later, to our journal article databases or to Google Scholar or to wherever you're doing your searching. So these are called Boolean operators, but basically it's your ands and your ors and your ways of limiting and expanding your searches. So when you have two words like security and politics in this example, and you put and in between them, the thing that it's doing is telling that database that all of the books and articles that you return to me in my search results need to have the word security and the word politics somewhere in the records of those books and articles. And when I say the records, what am I talking about? Well, if we're talking about books, we're talking about the title of the book, the table of contents, if it's available, or maybe a summary of the book, and then the subjects of that book. So the subjects in the library catalog. If we're talking about journal articles, it's the title of the journal article, perhaps the title of the journal itself, and the abstract of the article, and then any subjects that are attached to the articles as well. So the word security and the word politics have to be somewhere in all of those places that it's searching. So this automatically limits the number of results your search is producing, because it's saying both of these words have to be present. Whereas the opposite is true with or. So or increases the number of results your search produces. So this is when you have synonyms or related terms. So author Jones may be talking about the state, and author Smith may be talking about the government, but they may be talking about those two words in similar ways. And I'd like to see both of those articles. So if you say state or government, it will find either of these words or perhaps both of these words. But the more ors you add and the more synonyms you add, the more stuff you're going to get back, because it's saying this or this or this or this is fine. Another way to limit is to use exact phrase searching. So I did this before very briefly in SOFIA, but if you put quotation marks around any two or more words, and it could be 4 words if it's a phrase, but it has to be at least 2 words, like international cooperation or like climate change, it will find those 2 words together beside each other. It's about proximity. And so using the quotation marks or exact phrase searching limits your results, because it's saying this exact phrase has to be available somewhere. So it will find books and articles with the word international cooperation somewhere in them, and not books and articles that say, the international markets showed some cooperation. It wouldn't find that because it's looking for those 2 words together. And then finally, truncation, which is the little star, the little asterisk. If you put it at the sort of end of a word, or you cut off the word where the ending might be, like in this case, peace, finds peace building, peacekeeping, all of those things. This also works for a word like democracy. So D-E-M-O-C-R-A with the asterisk, we'll find democracy, democracies, democratization, so on and so forth. So this will give you more stuff when you use this, because it's saying this word or this word or this word or this word. But what you want to avoid is searching with linking words. So what I just showed you is your ands and ors, but that's amongst your key concepts. So when I was back looking at here, what are my key concepts? Financial crisis, global economy, and China. Those are the key concepts out of my sort of research question. And those are what I would use here with my ands and my ors. but I want to avoid searching with linking words, which are words like effects, impact, consequences, influence, significance. So each author may use different linking words when discussing similar topics. So again, author Jones might be writing about the effects of climate change on the world economy. Whereas author Smith might be talking about the impacts of climate change on the world economy. You don't want your search to be limited to those books and articles that only contain the word effect or impact. If I leave out those words and I just search for climate change and world economy, I'll find both of those articles. But if I were to do climate change and impact and world economy, I would only find the second article, if that makes sense. So if we break down these topics, and so I've used the rules I'm talking about to break down the topics and then put some of my synonyms in as well. So financial crisis or economic crisis or financial collapse or economic meltdown or market fragility and China or Chinese. So in this case, it might be talking about the economy in China or the Chinese economy, and global economy in quotation marks, or world economy, or globalization. It's one word, so it means no quotation marks, or global financial system, and also has quotation marks because it's 2 or more words, it's 3 words. And so you can see here my ands are linking these concepts, and then my ors are linking these concepts. The ands and ors are in all caps. If that's one thing you can take away from today, put your ands and ors in all caps. Sophia likes all caps for the ands and the ors, and a lot of the databases do. It helps them recognize that you're using those as sort of Boolean operators. Okay, so what can I do to sort of use that search and now find some stuff? So let's look for scholarly books. So in the SOFIA discovery tool, it's that big search box on our homepage. You can throw whatever in there and you have the power to sort of search through a lot of things. But there is an advanced search. I'm a librarian, I'm going to show you the advanced search, but the advanced search gives you a lot more control over your search because it provides multiple search boxes and your ands are in there already, and it looks more like a journal article search. So it looks a lot like this. So I'm searching through, these are keywords, and I could put all my sort of financial crisis search terms with my ors in my first search box there, and China or Chinese, and then all my economic search terms in the second box there. I pre-programmed this one just to sort of save time for us. Okay, so now we're in SOFIA. And so right away, if we're in SOFIA, we're looking at a mix of print books, ebooks, and journal articles. And I wanted to show you on the left here, so mostly in our databases, our journal article databases, as well as SOFIA, on the left-hand side is you're going to be all your options to limit your search. So this is a huge search. It got us 3,000 results. What can we do to limit? So you can limit to the library. If you just want to look to see what's available at Webster, you can do that. You can also limit down to just journal articles or to just books. See what print books we have on the topic, see what ebooks we have on the topic, and in some cases we have some videos here. So you can narrow those down, and it will narrow down to like 113 print books in this case, or 100 ebooks in this case, and take out everything that's not that format. And so some of these books may also have a print equivalent. These are ebooks. There may also be a print equivalent on the shelf, but you're only going to be viewing the ebooks in these cases, and it will sometimes have some print information down here if there are some. So that's a sort of quick way to limit if you want to limit, but I just want to look at what we have. Okay, so straddling economics and politics, cross-cutting issues in Asia, the United States, and global economies. So this is comparing 2 countries, the Asian financial crisis, reform and recovery. So that might be an interesting one as well. Financial and economic crisis of 2008, 2009. So this is an economic crisis that did happen. So it might be interesting to look at what happened during that financial crisis. How did states react to that financial crisis in order to apply it to your scenario? The financial crisis of developing countries, global multidisciplinary perspectives. So let's look at one of these books a bit more closely. This is a print book in this case, but we can look in here and see it's matched a lot of our words in the table of contents. And I just wanted to take a look at these subjects as well. So if I open global financial crisis 2008, 2009, and maybe globalization economic aspects, again, that's going to open a list of the books that are connected to that particular subject. So it helps you narrow down your search really quickly to a specific subject area. So in this case, the global financial crisis in Asia, implications and challenges from 2012, that's very recent compared to the other book we were looking at, the ebook there. So that's already helped me find something a little bit more relevant just by clicking through a few of those subjects and figuring out what subject is going to be most useful for me. Go back to that. Put a few books in there. So then if I'm looking at this book, how do I know it's scholarly? You're supposed to be using scholarly materials for your assignment. And I often get questions from students about how do I know if a book is scholarly as opposed to like a peer-reviewed journal article. There are a few things you can look for in order to evaluate a book, even in just the book record as you go along, to help you figure out if you want to select a book or not to use. I will say most of the books that we have in our collection are scholarly. That's what we're buying, but not everything is. So you definitely need to always be critical when you're looking at something. First, is it going to be useful for your topic? Are you going to find something in there that's going to contribute to your argument, but also is it an appropriate source? So one of the things you can look for is who published it. So is the publisher University Press? In this case, Oxford University Press, very well-known academic press. If it's from a university press, it's very likely considered a scholarly book. One of the other things to look for is how long is the book? And I say this especially in the because we're in an environment where we're looking at a lot of ebooks, because in the SOFIA catalog, you will see a lot of articles, you will see a lot of ebooks like this, but you'll also see some documents come through that maybe look like they're ebooks, but then they turn out to be a little bit short. Maybe they're 100 pages. And in those cases, those might be policy documents. So it's always good to look at a combination of factors, like who is the author, who is the publisher. If a government is the publisher, then it might be a policy document. And again, that might be shorter as well. So scholarly books are at least several hundred pages long. In this case, this one's over 300 pages long. Once you access the book, what are the author's affiliations? So that's always something to try to figure out as soon as you can. So I went into this ebook, and one of the first things I saw was the author affiliations. In this case, at least one of the authors, or sorry, the editor, is at an academic institution. The other two editors are at financial institutions. And then in this case, each of the chapters has a different author. And so you can find out the affiliations by clicking into those chapters. And you can see, are they connected to an academic institution? Are they a faculty member or researcher in this area? Are they an expert in this area, essentially? And then also examining, like, what are they citing? First of all, scholarly books will always have extensive reference lists, either at the end of each chapter or at the end of the book, usually both. And then what kinds of documents are they citing? Are they citing primary materials? It looks like there's a lot of primary materials in here. There's some graphs and sort of financial information, but are they also citing journal articles? So the first reference there is a journal article from the Journal of Political Economy, because scholars are going to be citing other scholarship in the area to build their arguments. So those are things to look for as well. Okay, so just going back to our list of books. Again, this is how you would locate the books, but this is in the H's rather than the J's. So I just wanted to talk about the books in the library. I know you're an online class, but if you're accessing print books in the library, generally the political science, government, and political theory books in print will be found in the J's, which is on the 4th floor. Political theory of the state, theories of the state is in JC, international relations in JZ, and political theory also. The social sciences are in the H's, and so if there are things that are sort of touching on economics or public policy or some of the isms, terrorism, socialism, those might be found in the H's, also on the 1st or 4th floor. Public finance is sort of in HJ, where you might find sort of that global finance kind of thing. And then world history is found within the D's, which is on the 3rd floor. And there might be some historical phenomenon or events that you're looking at, hopefully through a political lens, but that might be in the history section. So those are just things to know about those call number ranges. And the ebooks may have call numbers attached to them as well, but they'll always have those subjects, and the subjects are attached to the call numbers in this way. Okay, so that was books. I think we're still working on time. So now I wanted to talk about scholarly peer-reviewed articles. Just a moment, I need to. Okay, so scholarly peer-reviewed articles. So we're going to go to the library website under help and how to subject and course guides, social science, political science, and we're going to find the political science subject guide. I'm just actually going to do this live. So if we're going from the library homepage, which is library.concordia.ca, under help and how to, chat help right now, under help and how to, subject and course guides. And then there's a list here of course guides, and I'm going to click on social science and then political science here. And then this is the political science subject guide, which is in the chat. And a few things here. So political science encyclopedias that I mentioned before. There's an encyclopedia of political theory. These are all ebooks, so they're accessible online, these encyclopedias. The international relations theory books that are listed in the PowerPoint are also accessible here. Under course guides is where you find the PowerPoint slides for this particular class that we are in right now. But what I did want to show you is under this undergraduate students tab, I'm going to scroll down to journal articles databases. So this is the list of databases that I recommend political science students start with in order to find political science journal articles. And so our largest political science database is called Political Science Complete. And it has articles across sort of the political science subject areas, including international relations and comparative politics, international politics, and so on. It's an EBSCO database, so when we go in and look at it, you probably recognize it. I have a few things to say about that, but there are other databases listed here. ProQuest Combined Canadian is for Canadian topics, which is not super relevant to this class. JSTOR you may have heard of. It is a very large database that has a lot of different kinds of journals in it. It's really good for classical political theory. The thing to know about JSTOR is you don't want to be using it exclusively. The reason you don't want to use it exclusively is because it is a journal storage archive, essentially. So it often will have sort of the back files or the archive of particular journals, but it won't have the current few years. And so to access the current few years, you need to go into a different database. So you might be missing things. And that's just to note about JSTOR. I wouldn't use it alone. And then there's Google Scholar. I know lots of folks use Google Scholar, and that's also fine. But there are ways to set up Google Scholar in order to find Concordia resources. And you should do that before you start using Google Scholar, especially if you're using it off campus. Because once you have it set up to find Concordia resources, it will link you through to all those journals and articles that we've already paid for. So you want to ensure that you're getting access to those. Okay, so I'm going to go back up to Political Science Complete. Sign in as I'm off campus. And here we are. So Political Science Complete is an EBSCO database. EBSCO is the platform. They sell us the database. And so they sell us multiple databases. They sell us probably 100 databases, but each of them has different content. And so you want to make sure that you are in the correct database. So in this case, I'm searching in Political Science Complete, which is within EBSCO. Under Choose Databases, they have their other databases listed. Never ever search in more than 2 or 3 at a time because it will be unusable. But right now, I just want to search. I want to search in one. I want to search in Political Science Complete because that's going to give us those access to political science topics and also political science journals. And one of the nice things is that it also gives you access to the thesaurus, which I'm going to click on here. And so in the thesaurus, we can look up our terms. So if I look up the term financial crisis in the thesaurus for this specific database, I can see how this database uses this specific subject. So in this case, there's under financial panics, it's financial crises, it's plural. So if I click on that, I can include financial crises in my search. I can add it to my search, so it's adding up there. And there may be other related terms here as well that I might be interested. There's market utility I was talking about, so I can check that off, and it's going to add with or. So it's going to say this or this. So it's already building our search for us. And so I can add to this search up here, but again, I'm a person who likes to have all of my search boxes laid out. So I'm just going to copy that. And I'm going to go into the advanced search here. And then I can add with my ORs my other terms. Prices. Perhaps. Yeah. And then here it's giving me options. So China or Chinese or Republic of China or People's Republic of China. That sounds good. And you can always take the options that it's giving you particular database because it knows that those terms are available in the database. Globalization there doesn't need quotation marks because it's just one word. Something you always want to be aware of if you're using the quotation marks to search for the exact phrase is spelling counts, right? Because it's going to search for it exactly as it's entered. So you want to make sure you're spelling everything correctly. Say yes or no in your search. So I have a few of those thesaurus terms in there. I have a few of my own terms in there. And I found about 266. So the first thing I want to do is go over to this limit to option and click on scholarly peer-reviewed journals. And so that's going to just narrow down to only those journals that are peer-reviewed and the articles from them therein. So it just knocked out a few. And over 200 is still too many journal articles to look at. So what I can do is I can go into these subjects. So I talked about the subjects before and how there are subjects attached to each of the books in the library. There are also subjects attached to each of these journal articles. So we can see here this particular article. It's found some of my keywords in the titles and the title of the journal and the title of the article, but it's also found within the subjects that are attached to each of these articles. So if I open up the subject option and I click on show more, it's going to open a larger window. And then what that does is gives me the option to say, yes, I'm interested in China, financial crises, the global financial crisis, international economic relations, globalization, international relations, and any of these that I check off beside it, it's going to add with and. So it's going to narrow down that really large number of search results to something more manageable. And that's sort of what I recommend. So you saw that I put in a lot of ors there and a lot of synonyms in my search to start really big, and then I'm able to narrow it down. Because if you just put in a bunch of ands and you start really small and you only find like 5 articles, you'll want to expand that out because you haven't found very much. So it's always good to start big and then narrow down, I think. And so I'm just going to check off the ones that I think are going to be useful for me. And then it will add it to that search. I'll click on update and then we'll add it to the search. Go back to the top. And so it's narrowed it down a little bit more. So if I go into these, so I can see here it's found some of my key terms within the subject terms. It's also found it within the abstract. And then each of these journal articles is going to be on something really specific and focused. This is because journal articles only have X number of pages in order to present their arguments in the article, right? So with a book, we can have a book about Asian financial crises, and then maybe multiple countries in Asia will have their own articles, or multiple financial crises will have their own articles or chapters in the book, pardon me. Whereas an article just has, this one has 19 pages in order to talk about something much more specific and much more focused. So when you're looking at journal articles, it's going to be about one aspect of a topic and going to help you sort of build your argument from that aspect. So you'll probably need multiple journal articles and look at a sort of multiplicity of these in order to build that argument. And so this one in particular is looking at China-US tensions and talking specifically about financial crises and globalization. And go back over to my PowerPoint. Keep myself on track here. So we sort of went through the thesaurus. These are just screenshots for you to look at after. Right. So then we've done that. I've figured out my keywords. I put them into the database, and I found a few articles that I think are going to be useful. How do I know if these are articles I can use? How do I know if they're scholarly? So again, you use that scholarly peer-reviewed articles, you check that off and you narrow it down right away. But there are also some things you want to look for. So scholarly articles should be more than 10 pages long. So this one is 19 pages long. If it's 5 pages long, it's probably not a peer-reviewed article, maybe from a peer-reviewed journal, but it's probably like an editorial or a letter or a review of something. So you want to look at the length of that. Again, you want to find out, are the authors affiliated with the university? Usually you can find this in the record. In this case, the 2 authors have their affiliations listed here. And are they university faculty researchers? So then I'm going to go in and access, and then just looking at the article itself. Journal articles generally have a few agreed upon sections that will always be present. the abstract, the introduction, conclusion. Usually there's a literature review. There may be a methodology section depending on the type of article it is. There may be charts and graphs, things illustrating data. There will always be citations, which is what's in that sort of purple box there. And there should always be a reference list. So how do I know if an article is scholarly? Has it gone through the peer review process? So what exactly are we talking about when we say peer review? So peer review is a system used to decide if an article should be published, basically. So each paper is submitted to a peer reviewed journal, is read and evaluated by experts in the article's subject area. So that is another political science researcher who researches in that particular area. So the reviewers assess the article's validity, importance, originality, and then recommend whether or not it should be printed in the journal. And usually they're recommending maybe this should be changed, or you should make this addition to the article itself. The reviewer's suggestions are considered by the journal's editor, who makes a final decision about whether or not to accept or reject the article with those changes. And that's all a very quick explanation of something that takes a very long time. There can be a lot of back and forth. Things do get rejected, things do get revised. But basically, if we're talking about peer-reviewed journals, it has gone through this specific process. And so if we're looking at a scholarly article, we're looking at a peer-reviewed article, generally you should be looking at everything with a critical eye, of course. It should be longer, including a reference list. There should be clear credentials and affiliations. There generally are going to be some sections in there and headings, depending on each journal, that they might look a little bit different. There will always be citations. Scholarly articles cite their sources, either with in-text citations or footnotes and endnotes, and there will always be a reference list. And it may be called a reference list if it would be works cited or endnotes, but there will be a list of sources at the end of the article or somewhere in the article that you can then access and look at those books and articles as well. So also a couple notes about access. With most of our journals, there will be electronic access. You will be able to download the PDF very likely, very easily, either through a few clicks or it'll be right in the record. You might have to use Find It at Concordia, and I just wanted to show you this briefly. So Find It at Concordia, if that's the only option, you click on that, it will open a new window and it will probably give you another place to access a PDF. This is just the way our databases communicate with each other, because sometimes our journal articles are listed in one database, but actually live in another database. And so in this case, the PDF is available in several places, and so you can access the PDF here. Now, what if you click on Find It at Concordia and it doesn't give you a PDF option? If you scroll down in the Find It at Concordia, you will see a button that says Request via Interlibrary Loan. And so Interlibrary Loan is a way of getting journal articles from other libraries that subscribe to them, that we have agreements with, if we don't have the particular journal. Why wouldn't we have the journal? Lots of reasons. We can't subscribe to everything. It's very expensive. We may not have that particular area or discipline. We don't have a law school, for instance, so we don't have a lot of law journals. But we may not have them for multiple reasons, but you can usually get it for free from another library fairly quickly using Interlibrary Loan. So this button within the Find It at Concordia, if you click on it, it will then prompt you to log in, and you'll be logging into something called Columbo. It will then take all the information from the Find It at Concordia link, fill it in. So all you have to do is sort of look at it and say, yep, this is the title of the paper I wanted. Scroll down, make sure your email is correct, and then you click on Request. And what this is going to do is take a couple of business days, usually, it's quite fast, to get a PDF delivered to your email. So we say within a week. And you can also do this with print books. It takes a lot longer with print books than it does with journal articles. We currently have no way of using interlibrary loans to share ebooks. So if there is an ebook that, say, McGill has, there's unfortunately no way to get that ebook. The way to get it would be to talk to me and see if I can buy the ebook for the library. But you can request print books from other libraries if we don't have the book, using Columbo or Interlibrary Loan, but I know you're working remotely, so it most likely will be e-journal articles that you're looking at, and you can do that through Columbo. Okay, so getting back, that was sort of the nitty-gritty of accessing things. Getting back to developing your search, you want to get in there and brainstorm synonyms and related terms. Use the thesaurus in Political Science Complete or online to help you discover more terms. Try searching with or without your IR theories. So I searched without just to see what I could get about a financial crisis affecting China in general, but I could also add with an and my political theory and see if there's anything written from that point of view. But the likelihood that you're going to find your scenario written about in an article from the political point of view that you, or political theory, sorry, that you have chosen is probably unlikely, because what you're doing here is working with those theories to apply them to this scenario. So you may want to search sort of the theory stuff separately than you're searching the sort of things, the aspects of this scenario. I just wanted to mention very briefly citing your sources. We have, you've been told to use Chicago style. There's a direct link to the Chicago Manual of Style. There's help on our How to Cite page. There's something called the Library Research Skills tutorial, which has a whole citation module. And we have workshops in using the open access citation manager, Zotero. There's whole workshops on that through the library. I think the next one's in November. You can click on that link to find it. But there's a lot of citation help. You probably aren't thinking about that right now because you're just getting started with your topics, but you can always come to the library for help with citations and use the Chicago Manual of Style link, because most of what you would be citing, they will have an example for. So the key points I wanted to touch on today: the political science subject guides help provides quick access to key sources. I put the link in the chat. Myself, the political science subject librarian, is here to help. I'm happy to set up appointments with you. We can do things over email. We can have Zoom consultations. You can drop by my office hours. For your papers, your sources must collectively answer your research questions. So you might have some sources looking at your theories, and you might have some sources looking more at the aspects of your scenario, but you're going to combine those. And your IR theory sources can give you a head start on finding how you're going to apply those theories. And please cite your sources. And if you're having trouble with that, you can talk to us at the library. Sort of my final thoughts is there's plenty of help. So there's chat. You saw those chat windows popping up whenever I went to our website. We have a phone at the Ask Us desk. You can phone us there. You can come see us in person. We are the first desk you see when you walk up the stairs into Webster Library. That's the Ask Us desk. And you can email me, michelle.lake@concordia.ca. I will attempt to get back to you as quickly as I can. There's lots of help to be had. Okay. Just wanted to go back quickly to the political science subject guide to point out connect to the political science subject guide. There we are. Okay. So I provided you with this link, and I just wanted to point out my Zoom office hours to join on Wednesdays. The link to join is here. And if I need to change the day or there are different dates, I will do that week by week, and you can just check here for the updated information about that. Okay. All right. So that was a lot of information, but the slides are available on the political science subject guide, and I will make this recording available to your professor. You can add it to Moodle as well. Are there any questions? questions will probably come later. Well, if you have questions as you're working on things, please get into contact with me, and we can walk through it. Even if it's just to sort of figure out keywords to search, we can opt to do that over email. If you're searching things and you haven't found what you think you should be finding, we can sort of brainstorm some of those together. Well, I think I'm all set if there aren't any questions. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. So everyone start thinking about your term papers, and if you have questions about library resources, then you can get in touch with Michelle. If you have questions about the assignment, you can get in touch with me. So if there are no further questions, then I'll see everyone on Wednesday. I have office hours today if you have office hour type questions, so at the usual time. Otherwise, see you on Wednesday. Bye.